So if you haven't heard by now, the X-Men animated series from when did it come out? 1992, I think, is actually coming back. They just released a trailer for it not too long ago, I think like 2 weeks ago or something at the time I'm recording this. Everybody seems pretty excited for it. It's all cool and dandy. With that being said, this X-Men series, of course, wasn't the only series at the time when it came out. Matter of fact, there was a few different shows that were actually connected in this one universe together. You had Silver Surfer, you had the Incredible Hulk, there was Fantastic Four, and of course there was Spider-Man the Animated Series. Now I won't lie, I'm not entirely sure if all of them were directly connected as far as it all being in one universe. To my understanding, Spider-Man, Iron Man, and X-Men animated series were all in one universe, and anything else at that time, including Hulk, Avengers, Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, etc., may have been in technically an alternate Earth, but they shared the same multiverse, I think, considering Secret Wars adaptation in season 5 of Spider-Man the Animated Series. Either way, all of that being said, with the newly renewed X-Men 97 show on the horizon, it's getting fans starting to wonder and even beg for Marvel to bring back Spider-Man the Animated Series, and for a number of good reasons. And I will say there are pros and cons to this idea, but for Marvel and for the fans, for the most part, I think the pros will definitely outweigh the cons. So here is why Marvel should bring back Spider-Man the Animated Series and revive it into Spider-Man 98. So first off, let's go over the only problems that I know of if they were to bring back this show. One major issue I can think of when it comes to renewing the show is actually casting, but it's not the biggest problem ever. I did some research and most of the cast and crew is actually still alive and well today, except for 2 people. Linda Gary, who voiced dear old Aunt May, she passed away, rest in peace to her, God rest her soul. She was an amazing Aunt May voice actor. And the second person being Ed Asner, who voiced J. Jonah Jameson. As far as Jameson goes, I think Marvel could honestly just hit up J.K. Simmons and he would probably love to do the role and that would make fans happy. Although Ed Asner was a phenomenal J. Jonah Jameson, rest in peace to Ed Asner. As far as Aunt May, definitely gonna have to cast somebody else unless they maybe just don't have her in the show, but I mean that might be controversial, so that's kind of up in the air. I almost forgot about this, but the second main problem with renewing this cartoon, the only other problem other than casting, is actually the existence of Spider-Man Freshman Year, which was retitled to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I mean, yeah, we have a Spider-Man show coming out, but who knows if that's going to be any good. And I mean, like the animation looks cool, but we just haven't really heard any announcements as far as that project goes in a while, really. But yeah, those are all the cons. They would need to recast 2 people, and there's another Spider-Man show coming out already. Something somebody, I guarantee, will bring up. But Scarlet, the Spider-Man rights. Yeah, what about them? Disney and Marvel don't own the Spider-Man rights. Wrong. I'm gonna put this very simply, okay? By no means am I involved with Marvel and their legal limbo, but I do have this to say. Spectacular Spider-Man got taken off Disney Plus because Sony actually owns the rights to that TV show, I believe. On the other hand, Marvel does actually have the rights to Spider-Man on TV in animated form. That's why we still see Ultimate Spider-Man, even though that was a Disney XD exclusive show. That's why we see Spider-Man Unlimited on Disney Plus. That's why we still see Spider-Man the Animated Series on Disney Plus. Oh my god, I just realized they took off Spider-Man the new animated series as well. I'm pretty sure that has to do with Sony, if I'm not mistaken. And again, of course, X-Men 97, even though that's not Spider-Man, they were broadcasted under the same network, X-Men the Animated Series and Spider-Man the Animated Series, so they should be fine as far as this specific show goes, Spider-Man, considering again they literally revived a show directly canon to it, X-Men 97. So as far as we all know, they don't have a rights issue as far as, you know, this show goes, to my knowledge, with everything we publicly know and can see in front of us. So that's not really an issue as far as reviving this show. Now let's get into the pros of why they should make a season 6 continuation of Spider-Man the Animated Series, or just like in general a revival, something along the lines of Spider-Man 98. So, you know, follow X-Men 97 kinda, or whatever, you know. Let's start off with some rumors, then go into what the original plans for the original season 6 of this show was and what I would have liked to see them do. Not only that, but as well some recent news news that came out from the showrunner, John Semper Jr. himself, and, you know, a couple other things we're going to go over as well. So let's start off with the rumors. These aren't directly connected to this show or anything, but it's been reported around the beginning of last month, Marvel is reportedly reviving older Marvel shows, live action, animated, and etc. that have been canceled. Now, there's been a lot of canceled things. Let's go over some of them. Cloak and Dagger, The Defenders from Netflix, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Punisher, although I think they're giving him another show, don't quote me on that though. And of course, another popular canceled show, Spider-Man the Animated Series. I would include Spectacular, but again, the rights are in limbo between Sony and Disney, so that's a complicated mess for another time to discuss for another video. However, this likely isn't just a rumor or report, considering we are literally getting a revival of the X-Men animated series in the form of X-Men 97, which is going to continue the story of the original show. On top of that, we're getting a revival of Daredevil, the Netflix show. It's been reported we're getting a spin-off show out of this new Daredevil show that's going to be the Punisher show. So in my eyes, it's already happening. Like, we're literally seeing them revive old shit that was canceled. But now, as far as X-Men 97 goes, in my eyes, this says a lot because, like, all right, think about it like this, right? If this project does well, they will definitely be doing more of this with some of these other canceled projects. The gears are already moving. We already have a trailer for this new X-Men 97 show. Speaking of that trailer, that brings me to the next point or piece of evidence of the possibility of Spider-Man the Animated Series being revived. In the X-Men 97 trailer, at the 30-second mark, we see a fucking Daily Bugle newspaper, and it looks exactly like the ones in the Spider-Man animated series because, again, X-Men and Spider-Man were held in the same universe, same Earth. But what's interesting here is that we actually see at the top left of the newspaper, it says, "Is Spider-Man a mutant?" I think it says page 10 or whatever. Then if you look at the top right, it says Hellfire Gala, text by Eddie Brock, photos by Peter Parker. Now, what does this mean exactly? Number one, it could very well just be a reference. Whatever, you know, nothing too crazy. They were, you know, in the same universe. Number two, it might mean that Spider-Man may, possibly, just maybe, Spider-Man may show up in X-Men 97 because X-Men would show up in Spider-Man the Animated Series, but in the original X-Men animated series, Spider-Man actually did cameo in season 3, episode 33, as he just so happened to be in the area while there was some sort of storm happening and saved a woman, I believe, from getting hit by a flying bench. Number three, lastly, maybe this newspaper tease could be a hint to maybe the show being revived. Who knows? Now, with that being said, again, it's very possible most of the cast and crew are alive and well. On top of that, the showrunner John Semper Jr., he tweeted out something pretty interesting recently, so let's go over that quickly. On February 28th, John Semper Jr. took to Twitter and tweeted out, "Hey, Avi Arad, Amy Pascal, Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and finally Christina Steinberg." Side note, these are all people involved with creating Into and Across the Spider-Verse. He attaches a link to an article about Spider-Verse and goes on to say, "Even though you've never seen fit to thank me in your credits for creating the Spider-Verse concept, you're welcome anyway. Wink emoji." Holy fucking hell. Imagine getting called out by the man, the myth, the legend, John Semper Jr., who did the Spider-Verse concept first. Hey man, Spider-Man the Animated Series was just an absolute status quo changer for the Spider-Man mythos. His show still affects some Spider-Man stories till this very fucking day. To be honest, without Spider-Man the Animated Series, we would not have Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3 by Sam Raimi, because those films are literally live-action adaptations of Spider-Man the Animated Series. Some scenes, some storylines were made beat for beat, visual for visual.
He copied my whole fucking flow! Oh, word for word, bar for bar! Oh! Don't act like I didn't.
Spider-Man the Animated Series had so much impact on Spider-Man in media since its release, and fans like me have loved this show for years. I literally almost forgot to talk about the entire point of me bringing up this original tweet from John Semper Jr. In the replies from that original tweet, Sean Ferguson, random fan I'm assuming, replies to John Semper's tweet and says, "Thoughts on Spider-Man 98, ? Continuing the story like X-Men is doing." And then John Semper Jr. replies, "All they have to do is call me, I'm here, and I'd certainly consider doing it." The showrunner says he wants to do it. Most of the cast and crew are alive. Hopefully they would want to do it as well. It's definitely possible. What's really crazy about this too is that John Semper Jr. is almost never on Twitter. Now with that being said, what could they have done, or what could they do for a season 6? Well, there was actually supposed to be a season 6 until it got canceled, so we'll go over that, and as well what I would have liked to see in a continued season 6 or Spider-Man 98, whatever. So first, let's go over what was actually rumored / confirmed to happen in the season 6 before the show got canceled. Now again, some of these were rumored, some of them were confirmed. Correct me in the comments if I get one wrong. I believe this was confirmed, but Beetle would have been a villain in season 6. That would have been dope. When have we ever seen Spider-Man versus the Beetle outside of the comics? Never, I think. So that would be dope to see in a revival series. Apparently, Norman would have came back from whatever limbo he fell into from the portal or whatever, and would have returned as the Green Goblin, of course. I don't think this is a season 6 specific rumor, but I think Sandman was supposed to show up in the show at some point, but at or around the time they said never mind, because the Spider-Man movie that never happened by James Cameron, I think Sandman was supposed to be the villain of that, so they said never mind, we'll just put him in the movie, and that's why they didn't want to put him in the show, I guess. Even the Incredible Hulk would have made a cameo from the Incredible Hulk animated show. Miles Warren was going to become the Jackal. That would have been fire for sure. So now let's address the elephant in the room. God, Marvel, why did you do us like this? You had Mary Jane get lost in the multiverse for 2 fucking seasons, and you decided to cancel the show before we got to know if Peter found Mary Jane with Madam Web in the multiverse. That felt good to get off my chest. First thing they would need to address is that for sure, which interestingly enough, John Semper Jr. actually released a script for what he had planned on how he would have wrapped up that storyline, which I will say the story's kind of weird and all over the place for my taste, but the good thing is it seems in the end that Spider-Man did find Mary Jane, the real one, and return to their dimension. Another good thing that could come out of this revival show is more of them tying up loose ends and plot points that were kind of just forgotten about, or storylines we didn't exactly see unfold with our Spider-Man, but others in the show, or just stuff we never seen adapted before. One of these being the potential for the Clone Saga to be adapted with Miles Warren with the help of Alistair Smythe. And you may say, we already saw the Clone Saga happen, but that wasn't in our Spidey's universe. It was in Ben Reilly's universe. And I think it could be interesting because although they kind of did, you know, do the clone stuff with MJ, because he did marry the clone, not the real Mary Jane, but that also kind of opens up a whole nother can of worms, because the marriage thing didn't really happen considering the real MJ has no recollection of marrying Peter. It would be interesting to explore Pete and MJ's relationship, because legally they're married, but personally between them they aren't, and as well the fact that none of their friends and family know MJ was a clone at the time. So it would be interesting to see the Clone Saga with more Spider-Man, this time in this universe with our Spider-Man. Speaking of storylines, it would be great to see them do storylines they never actually really got a chance to do. A storyline many have begged to see adapted in some way, shape, or form for years is Kraven's Last Hunt. And while this was semi-adapted in Spider-Man 2, that shit sucked. There is a rumor it may be adapted in Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man 4, and if those rumors are true, the way they are doing it, it may actually come out really good, but those are rumors for now, so, you know, we'll see how that unfolds. Either way, this story would be so great for a show like Spider-Man 98, although Kraven's Last Hunt does get pretty dark, and there could be some issues with not censoring, but what they're allowed to show on TV with animation, but then again, TV has come a long way with stuff like that. More on that in a minute, but I will say the original writer of Kraven's Last Hunt has actually expressed that he would love to see Kraven's Last Hunt adapted, but in order for it to work, Peter would need to be an adult and as well married. So those are like the original thoughts of the Kraven's Last Hunt writer on it, and if it were to be adapted. But him being married and an adult are both the case for Peter in the show, so it could work out good. Another major one I would have loved to see was the Juggernaut, because the very old storyline from when did that shit come out? Like 1989, I think. A lot of people wanted to see this adapted, and we still have yet to see this adapted outside of the comics that I know of anyway. This storyline, Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut, is pretty interesting. So essentially, someone dispatches the Juggernaut to kidnap Madam Web, hoping that her psychic powers could help defeat the X-Men. But she sees the future, so she calls Spider-Man for help to take down the Juggernaut, and no matter what Peter does, he gives it his all. He tries his best best. He tries everything he can think of, but nothing works. Nothing can stop the Juggernaut, hence the name. But this is a very David Goliath type of tale where Spider-Man shows his persistence in never giving up, never backing down, and to keep on getting up and to keep on going. This could make for a very hard-hitting episode of Spider-Man 98. Back to what I said like a minute ago when I briefly mentioned TV censoring and broadcast standards. People give Spider-Man the Animated Series a lot of shit because they think the show was being censored when in fact it was not being censored. There's just certain things that were not allowed to be broadcasted in a superhero TV show, mainly aimed for kids especially. Swearing, of course, blood, guns, although John Semper Jr. did actually argue to show a gun in the show for a specific episode for a specific story plot involving, I believe, Robbie's son, and Tombstone. However, since then, the standards have been changed and a lot more lenient since then. I mean, take Spectacular Spider-Man, for example. We see a lot of glass being broken, Venom choked Spider-Man out, pause. They got Doc Ock talking about, yeah, Rhino, gang, you won the coin toss, so...
Will you crush his skull or simply impale his heart on your horn?
Impale sounds good.
Like, goddamn, that never would have been allowed in the 90s. I guarantee that shit. But, oh, another loose end I almost forgot about, I consider at least, was Venom, Carnage, and as well the Spot. They were all sucked into portals, never to be seen again. I guess this should include Green Goblin too, but it was rumored he was going to return anyway. You know what? Maybe Carnage could stay in limbo after what he tried to do.
I'm gonna obliterate you all!
But as far as the Spot, this was my first introduction to this character, and I really love the concept of him in this show and loved him as a villain ever since. I'm glad he got some spotlight in Spider-Verse. That's really dope, pun intended. But I would hope if they continue the show, if they could bring him back, wrap up that loose end. Now, as far as Venom / Eddie Brock, this is very interesting because of what we went over earlier with the X-Men 97 newspaper or whatever. I haven't done research as far as how long after the original X-Men animated series the new X-Men 97 show takes place, but the X-Men original started, then Spider-Man came out after. So is X-Men 97 before or after Venom got sucked in the portal with Carnage to save the doctor that he loved? Either way, that could be another loose end to tie up, maybe bring Eddie back, maybe not as Venom, or maybe as Venom the Lethal Protector. Either way, it doesn't really matter too much, I guess. Not only that, but the second to last main positive reviving this show would be, of course, better editing and animation. Holy moly, no disrespect to the original editors and animators. I'm sure they had deadlines and they worked hard, but they definitely reused some scenes in places that didn't exactly fit, like Venom swinging. This scene was reused to hell. Some episodes have editing problems, like in the episode The Price of Heroism, a couple of scenes are shown so out of order that they're literally rendered like incomprehensible. Basically what happens is there's like a sequence where Spider-Man and Captain America are being held at gunpoint by Chameleon with Red Skull like just in the background. Then it cuts to a scene where Cap and Spidey are first arriving at the compound and are then surprised and kidnapped by the Red Skull and Chameleon. And lastly, they could make more toys. The entire reason this show existed was because Marvel wanted to sell toys to get their bread up, and what do you know, you still have people buying Marvel Legends figures based on characters from this show till this day, even Funko Pops. I have 5 Funko Pops from this show, and I plan to someday cop some Marvel Legend figures based on this show so they could sell more merch, make more money, and promote the new show. It's a win-win for everybody. Overall, it's very possible for Marvel to give Spider-Man the Animated Series a revival in that of Spider-Man 98, and I bet a lot of people would really love for this to happen, especially my generation, Generation Z, or maybe even some of today's generation would as well like the show too. It could introduce new fans to Marvel and Spider-Man for years to come, just like it did for me and others around my age when we were kids watching Spider-Man the Animated Series. What do you think? Would you love to see Spider-Man 98 come to fruition, or is there another previously canceled Marvel project you would like them to revive, like X-Men 97? With that being said, I want to hear your opinion, so make sure to comment down below so I can interact with you in the comments. Thank you for taking time out every day to click on this video. If you're new to the channel, I usually try my best to cover confirmations, rumors, leaks, weeks regarding Spider-Man media and whatever else I'm interested in. So if that's what you're interested in, hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 6K. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video and to check out my last at the top left already. Hope you have had a good day and enjoyed the video. Until next time.